Look, all I can say is AOC does not represent the Hispanic community. Definitely does not represent Texas District 34 and who we are here. And we're not worried about the Washington nonsense, Latinx. We're worried about the cost of living, gas, food, healthcare. That's what we're worried every single day. We're not waking up, and thinking about what's happening in Washington. They're just so disconnected. Um, it's really sad because they think that the world revolves around Washington D.C. and that's really not the reality.
I want to start this story by quoting some new polling from the New York Times that's quite shocking. For the first time in a Times Siena national survey, Democrats had a larger share of support among white college graduates than among non-white voters, a striking indication of the shifting balance of political energy in the Democratic coalition. And let's put this into perspective. This shift is happening rapidly. As recently as the 2016 congressional elections, Democrats won more than 70% of non-white voters, and yet here we are. So here's Mayra Flores, the GOP's new star, who they can parade around and say, see Democrats, the exact people you've been pandering to don't really like you. And of course, there has been a lot of pandering from the Democrats and an assumption from liberals that these non-white communities will just fall in line come election time. But what are people like Mayra Flores actually fighting for? When you look closer into all of her rhetoric, it seems like she cares just as much about empty identity politics as many liberals do. Looking at her Twitter, Flores is happily leaning into these identity politics for her own gain. She says that she doesn't care about DC and Democrats like AOC and what they think of her, but her Twitter feed begs to differ. So who is she? What does she stand for? What is the GOP's plan to tackle the price of gas and food and all these other things you say you care mostly about? It's easy to rail against the party in power, but what is the Republican plan to alleviate cost of living for the working class? As far as I can see, not much. It's clear that she's doing a good job of breaking barriers, and yes, proving that for too long the Democrats have taken voters of color for granted. And it really doesn't help when the First Lady literally refers to Mexican voters as tacos.
The Bronx, as beautiful as the blossoms of Miami, and as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio.
The Democrats need to wake up and see that the GOP plan is very clear. Recruit candidates of color that will defy the left's assertion that they are the party best serving non-white voters and then ultimately deliver nothing. That's their problem. The GOP has no solutions. They want to keep their constituents angry, poor, and mistrustful, and that's how they keep winning elections. What voters can't argue with is results and promises kept. The time has long passed for Democrats to wake up and fulfill the promises they made on the campaign trail and deliver for working American people and voters of color. Thanks so much for watching. You can follow me on all platforms at Caro Johnson 917.